6 powerful signs God wants you to leave the narcissist. You've been in a relationship with a narcissist for what feels like forever. Endless manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional drain have become a daily routine. Despite all the signs that this relationship is toxic, you still feel like you're stuck, unable to break free. You may even be asking yourself, is this what God wants for me? How do I know if this is His will, or if I'm just not trying hard enough? Narcissists are skilled at drawing you in with their charm, only to slowly, insidiously strip you of your sense of self-worth. Over time, their emotional abuse can warp your perception of reality, leaving you confused and emotionally battered. The longer you stay, the more difficult it becomes to see the truth. You are no longer living a life of fulfillment and peace, but one of constant manipulation and control. But here's the thing. God doesn't want you to suffer. He doesn't want you to endure pain, confusion, or emotional destruction. If you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you may feel the tug of God's Spirit urging you to leave, to break free, and to reclaim your life. This is not a journey of condemnation or guilt. It's a call to recognize your worth in God's eyes and to understand that He has a better plan for your life. In this video, we will explore 6 powerful signs that God is telling you to leave the narcissist. These signs are not always obvious at first glance, but when you pay attention to them, you'll begin to see that God is speaking to you through your feelings, your thoughts, and your circumstances. His love for you is greater than any toxic relationship, and He wants you to live a life of freedom, peace, and purpose. Before we dive into these signs, make sure you subscribe, like, and share this video. We're in this together, and by sharing this message, you can help others break free from the emotional and spiritual chains of narcissistic abuse. Let's explore these signs with the understanding that God's heart is to heal, restore, and empower you. Now let's look at 6 powerful signs that God is calling you to leave the narcissist. One of the first and most powerful signs that God wants you to leave a narcissist is the constant feeling of anxiety and fear. You may find yourself walking on eggshells, never quite knowing when the next argument or emotional outburst will occur. A narcissist thrives on chaos, using it to maintain control and power over you. But anxiety is not from God. In 2 Timothy 1-7, the Bible tells us that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love, and of a sound mind. When you're constantly in a state of fear and anxiety, this is a clear indication that you are not in alignment with God's peace. God's intention for you is to live in freedom, not fear. While anxiety is a normal part of life, when it becomes overwhelming and constant, it's a sign that something is out of alignment. Your spirit is telling you that the relationship you are in is unhealthy and toxic. It's a subtle yet powerful signal that God may be urging you to step away from the chaos and seek the peace and stability that He offers. If your mind and spirit are always in turmoil because of someone's behavior, it's time to evaluate whether staying in that relationship is God's will for you. The narcissist may try to convince you that your anxiety is your fault, that you're overreacting, or that you just need to be more understanding. But God is not the author of confusion or constant turmoil. He desires that you experience His peace that surpasses all understanding, Philippians 4-7. If this anxiety is overwhelming, it's a clear sign that God is calling you to take action, to leave the relationship and trust in His plan for your future. Another sign that God may want you to leave a narcissist is when you find yourself losing your sense of self-worth. Narcissists are experts at belittling others and making them feel small. Over time, you may start questioning your value, your identity, and your purpose. A narcissist will try to mold you into what they want you to be, constantly criticizing and demeaning you until you forget who you truly are. This loss of self-worth is not God's will for your life. In Psalm 139:14, the Bible tells us, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." You were created in God's image, and He values you beyond measure. When someone continually undermines your sense of self, it's a clear sign that the relationship is damaging to your spirit and emotional health. God's desire for you is to be confident in your identity and secure in His love for you. If you find yourself constantly doubting your worth or feeling worthless in the relationship, it's time to listen to God's voice. His call for you is to return to the truth of who He says you are, not what the narcissist is trying to convince you of. You don't have to stay in a relationship that causes you to lose yourself. God wants to restore your identity and help you stand firm in His love. The third sign that God may be calling you to leave a narcissist is when the relationship becomes spiritually toxic. Narcissists often engage in spiritual manipulation, using your faith and beliefs against you. They may act as though they are supportive of your spiritual journey, but their actions contradict their words. A narcissist may pretend to be a good Christian, but in reality, they're using religion as a way to control and manipulate you. They might guilt-trip you for not prioritizing them or use your faith to justify their abusive behavior. This is a direct violation of God's desire for your spiritual growth. God wants you to have a deep, personal relationship with Him, not one that is filtered through manipulation and falsehood. In Matthew 7:15-16, Jesus warns us, "Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them." If you feel spiritually drained, confused, or manipulated by the narcissist, it's a sign that God is calling you to leave the relationship and find a healthier, more authentic relationship with Him. A narcissist will often play on your emotions and use your faith as a weapon to control you, making you feel guilty for setting boundaries or standing up for yourself. But God's desire is for you to grow in His love, not to be spiritually suffocated by someone who twists the truth for their own benefit. If you find that the relationship is hindering your spiritual growth or causing you to question your faith, God is calling you to step away. Another powerful sign that God wants you to leave a narcissist is when you experience a lack of true love and support in the relationship. Narcissists are incapable of offering unconditional love, and their affection is often conditional upon what you can do for them. They may give you just enough to keep you hooked, but the love is shallow, selfish, and rooted in their need for validation, not in a genuine desire for your well-being. True love, as described in 1 Corinthians 13:4-7, is patient, kind, and does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking and does not keep a record of wrongs. If the relationship lacks this kind of love, if you feel more like a servant or an object than a cherished partner, it's a clear indication that God is leading you to walk away. Love should bring peace, joy, and fulfillment, not stress, manipulation, and emotional depletion. God's love for you is abundant, and He wants you to experience love that builds you up, not tears you down. If you are in a relationship where love feels transactional or conditional, where your needs are constantly neglected, and where your emotional well-being is disregarded, it's time to listen to God's call. His love for you is greater than the false affection of a narcissist, and He wants you to experience the fullness of His love. The fifth sign is the continuous cycle of abuse and manipulation. Narcissistic relationships often follow a pattern of idealization, devaluation, and discard. In the beginning, the narcissist showers you with affection, making you feel like you are the most important person in their life. But once you're hooked, the love fades, and you're left with emotional turmoil, manipulation, and cruelty. The narcissist will gaslight you, twist your words, and make you question your reality. And when you try to break free, they will often try to reel you back in with promises of change, only to repeat the cycle. This pattern is not healthy, and it is certainly not what God intends for your life. In 2 Corinthians 6:14, we are reminded, "Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness?" If you find yourself stuck in a cycle of emotional abuse, God is calling you to break free. He does not want you to continue enduring this cycle of pain and manipulation. It's time to leave the narcissist and seek healing and restoration. Finally, the last sign that God wants you to leave the narcissist is when you experience physical, emotional, or mental exhaustion. Narcissists drain you physically, emotionally, and mentally. The constant strain of trying to meet their demands, cope with their emotional outbursts, and repair the damage they cause can leave you feeling completely depleted. God wants you to live in health, not in constant exhaustion and despair. Jesus said in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." If the relationship is leaving you feeling physically and emotionally drained, it's a sign that God is calling you to rest and heal. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and God does not want you to be depleted by someone else's selfishness. It's time to step away and allow God to restore your strength. In conclusion, there are many signs that God is calling you to leave the narcissist in your life. Whether it's the constant anxiety, the loss of self-worth, the spiritual manipulation, or the cycle of abuse, God is leading you toward healing, freedom, and peace. He does not want you to suffer in a toxic relationship, and He has better plans for your life. If you are experiencing any of these signs, take it as a call to trust in God's love for you. Leave the narcissist behind, and walk toward a future filled with His peace and restoration. Thank you for reading. If this video resonated with you, please subscribe, like, and share it with others who may need to hear this message. God's love is powerful, and He wants to bring healing into your life. Stay strong and trust that He is with you every step of the way. What haunts a narcissist after you break free? Imagine walking away from a relationship that has left you drained, confused, and scared. You've escaped the clutches of a narcissist, a person whose charm once captivated you and whose manipulation slowly poisoned your sense of self-worth. Now you're free. You feel a weight lifting from your shoulders as you regain your autonomy and rebuild your life. But what happens after you break free? What happens to the narcissist, the person who once held so much power over you? The idea that a narcissist could ever experience regret or remorse may seem far-fetched to many. After all, narcissists are notorious for their lack of empathy and their relentless need to control, use, and discard others. However, just because they don't show remorse in the conventional sense doesn't mean they don't face consequences in their own way. In fact, there are certain things that haunt narcissists after you break free, things they can't avoid or outrun, no matter how hard they try. In this video, we'll explore the psychological aftermath for narcissists once you've left their grip. We'll uncover the hidden fears, insecurities, and vulnerabilities that they often try to conceal, and we'll reveal how breaking free from their influence sets off a chain of events that can leave them rattled, anxious, and even afraid. If you think that escaping a narcissist doesn't affect them at all, think again. The aftermath of your departure is more complicated than you might think. Before we dive into these complexities, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this article. By doing so, you help raise awareness and provide others with the understanding they need when dealing with narcissistic abuse. The more people who know what's really going on behind the narcissist's mask, the better we can support those who are still struggling. Now let's explore what truly haunts a narcissist after you've broken free. Once you've broken free from a narcissist, one thing becomes glaringly obvious. They cannot stand being ignored. Narcissists thrive on attention, admiration, and validation. The very core of their identity is tied to how others perceive them. So when you leave, and you stop feeding their ego, something inside them starts to unravel. They can no longer rely on you to serve as a mirror reflecting their idealized self. This lack of validation creates a deep, uncomfortable void that they desperately try to fill with anyone who will listen, but it's never the same. For a narcissist, their entire sense of self is built on external validation. When you walk away, you stop playing that role. The illusion of control they once held over you begins to fade, and the mask they've worked so hard to create starts to slip. They may attempt to lure you back in with grandiose promises or manipulative tactics. But deep down, they're panicking. The fear of being discarded, of no longer being the center of attention, haunts them. This is where their narcissistic injury begins. At first, the narcissist might dismiss your departure as a mere inconvenience, something they can easily recover from. But as time goes on, the absence of your validation starts to eat at them. They may try to replace you with someone else, another target they can manipulate and control. But no matter how hard they try, they know, deep down, that it's not the same. You were the one who fed their ego in a way that no one else could. The narcissist is left grappling with the realization that they can't simply discard you and move on without consequence. But there's more. As much as narcissists try to project an image of invincibility, they are deeply insecure individuals. This insecurity manifests in a crippling fear of rejection. When you leave them, you don't just walk away from them. You leave behind the validation they so desperately crave. To a narcissist, rejection is one of the most painful experiences they can endure, and this fear of rejection becomes even more pronounced once you're no longer around to stroke their ego. For narcissists, rejection is a blow to their fragile sense of self-worth. They'll often try to minimize it, insisting that they never cared about you, or that they have plenty of other people to turn to. But beneath the surface, the reality is much different. The narcissist may try to project confidence and act as if nothing bothers them, but inside, they are constantly battling the fear that they are not good enough. Your departure triggers this fear, forcing them to confront the parts of themselves they try so hard to suppress. They may try to fill the void with new sources of validation, but it's never enough. The fear that they'll never be able to replace you completely is something that haunts them every day. Another thing that weighs heavily on a narcissist after you break free is the loss of control. Narcissists crave control over their environment and the people around them. When you leave, it's like they've lost a crucial piece of their puzzle. They can no longer dictate your actions, thoughts, or emotions. In their eyes, you've broken the rules of the game, and this loss of control leaves them feeling exposed and vulnerable. The narcissist's desire for control is so deeply ingrained that it can lead them to engage in obsessive behaviors long after you've left. They may stalk your social media profiles, try to gather information about your new relationships, or attempt to manipulate people around you in an effort to regain some semblance of power. But no matter how much they try to regain control, the truth is that they're haunted by the fact that they no longer have it. And that loss, no matter how hard they try to mask it, is a constant reminder of their own insecurity. In addition to the fear of rejection and loss of control, narcissists are also deeply afraid of being exposed. After all, their entire identity is built on a carefully crafted illusion, a facade that hides their true selves. When you break free, you're one of the few people who truly understands the reality behind their mask. You know their vulnerabilities, their manipulations, and the lies they've told. You possess the power to expose them for what they truly are. This is something that keeps narcissists up at night. The fear of exposure isn't just about the potential damage to their reputation. It's about the destruction of the entire image they've built. Narcissists rely on the admiration and validation of others to maintain their inflated self-image. If you were to reveal their true nature to the world, they'd lose everything they've worked so hard to project. This fear of being unmasked is something that stays with them, haunting them long after you've gone. They may try to discredit you, make you seem crazy, or manipulate others into believing their version of the story. But underneath it all, they are terrified of being exposed for who they really are. Lastly, there's the haunting reality that narcissists often repeat the same patterns of behavior in every relationship they have. After you leave, they will likely move on to someone new, but the cycle of manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional abuse will start all over again. While this may seem like a victory for you, it's a never-ending nightmare for them. The reason narcissists cannot escape their own patterns is that they are unable to grow or reflect on their behavior. They may temporarily find new targets, but the underlying issues that drive their narcissism will always remain. They are trapped in their own toxic cycle, and this is something that haunts them because, deep down, they know they will never truly find peace or happiness. In closing, while it may seem like narcissists move on easily after you break free, the reality is much more complicated. They are haunted by the very things that give them the illusion of power, validation, control, and the fear of exposure. Your departure triggers deep insecurities and exposes the vulnerabilities they desperately try to hide. While they may not show it, narcissists are left grappling with the aftermath of losing someone who was once a source of endless supply for them. If you've ever wondered what happens to a narcissist after you leave, the answer is simple. They are left haunted by their own fears, insecurities, and the realization that they can never fully replace what they've lost. Their world is a fragile illusion, and without you in it, that illusion starts to crack. Thank you for taking the time to read and reflect on these insights. If you found this video helpful or enlightening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. By sharing this information, you help others gain a deeper understanding of the narcissistic cycle and the damage it can cause. You're not alone in this journey, and together we can continue to raise awareness and support those who are healing from narcissistic abuse. Thank you again, and remember, breaking free is the first step toward reclaiming your power and peace. Stay strong. The worst thing a narcissist does as they get old. There's a saying that goes, "You can't teach an old dog new tricks." In the case of narcissists, this couldn't be more accurate. As narcissists age, their behavior doesn't necessarily mellow out or improve with time. In fact, as they get older, the worst traits of their personality tend to become more pronounced, and the consequences of their manipulations grow more intense. But what's the worst thing a narcissist does as they get old? Is it that they become more desperate for attention? Or perhaps it's their complete disregard for the people around them. The truth is, the most destructive aspect of an aging narcissist is something far more insidious: the emotional toll they inflict on those who have endured their abuse over time. As narcissists enter their later years, they face the unavoidable reality of aging, decline, and loss of power. However, their narcissistic tendencies, desperation for control, fear of being irrelevant, and a need for constant admiration, don't vanish with age. In fact, they often get worse. If you've ever been involved with a narcissist or witnessed one as they grow older, you may have noticed that these individuals often refuse to accept the passing of time. They cling to their false sense of grandeur